A lot of people will be like, hey, what will prevent Google from building whatever platform? The way I think about it is this is a classic engineer's fallacy. From building point of view, anybody can build anything. Especially in Silicon Valley, they're the smartest engineers out there. In fact, we should be fooling ourselves if we're building something that others can. From that point of view, the question is not whether somebody can.
The following is a conversation with Priyank Chodisetti, former software engineer turned CEO who's reshaping the way we use Gen AI. He's the co-founder and CEO at Promptly, a no-code platform that lets users build and run Gen AI workflows in the cloud, utilizing popular models from OpenAI, Cohere, Stability, and more. Thank you so much for taking the time and joining me on the podcast.
It was mine. Thanks for all the flexibility.
I'm really happy to continue our conversation.
Good. Sounds good. I will give a summary of what I have done and then we can jump into Promptly.
Yep.
Currently, I'm one of the co-founders and CEO of Promptly, which we'll chat about more. I was at Coursera for 8 years. I was their first engineering manager. Towards the end, I was heading the degrees engineering team. Degrees is responsible for the entire online degrees you can get through Coursera. Degree in around $200 million business. We went through IPO and which I took a break and started. It was a wild ride of startups. At another startup I co-founded called Mulu. We were mostly building in the social shopping space. We were there for around 3 years. Things didn't go as well. Like a lot of learnings to the question and we'll get a live answer from. We got acquired by Google back then. This is back in 2011.
I'm sure there are a lot of scars. At the same time, what you've accomplished is pretty remarkable. In terms of Promptly, in a nutshell, what does it do for the customers? There are a lot of startups that are in the similar space post
That's right.
the OpenAI
Right.
launch.
Yeah. So we started like little early when ChatGPT announced. Back then we were building, when we started this current startup, we started whole Web3 space.
Okay.
We were building data analytics for Web3 protocols, right? Anytime somebody wants to get metrics about how their dApps are doing, then we mine all the public blockchain data and you can write a simple SQL query, get insights from it. We thought that was like very powerful product, but at the same time, despite a lot of people saying, oh, we absolutely love analytics, metrics and all, not many people were writing these queries. Most of the time, our support team was doing that. We automatically like generate SQL based on their English query, use like OpenAI's models behind the scenes and give them a graph back. Like we thought we'll do a simple API integration. That is when like the whole GPTs were launching, ChatGPT and all. And we thought it's a simple API call to integrate and all that. But once we started working, we easily took like around month and a half to 2 months. That is when we realized, oh, there are complexity behind the scene. And we quickly realized this should be a common enough problem where enterprises are looking to use these LLM APIs, they should be running into the same set of problems.
Yep.
Or most of these enterprises will rebuild this entire stack. So that's when we did some user research, talked to a bunch of early adopters of ChatGPT APIs and such. And then what we did was we took our internal abstractions that we built for this data analytics thing, and then we spun it off as a platform that will help enterprises or anyone, in fact, building custom solutions on top of LLMs in a no fast, easy way. That is how we learned the problem, experienced that firsthand. We trivialized the problem, but when we started building a real production, it was not scaling.
It's an interesting way to arrive at an idea. Also very common. A lot of people do start at one place and then realize that there is a problem they face as a business. That's right.
Yeah. That was a bit of expansion phase for us, right? Because we thought about what are all the potential opportunities or directions we have, right? In Web3, we quickly went to 150K ARR, but realized many of those accounts are not repeatable or we haven't seen enough demand. We started in a small chain called Sil. So we have been contemplating enough opportunity here for us to build a good business. So the options we have are, one, this internal platform I'm talking about, two, a data analytics platform, right? We already have the entire data stack, ability to generate SQL, run and rate plots, so on, right? And three, I was experiencing a bunch of issues in the sales pipeline. How do you do analysis of sales, so on and so forth. So the third option was, can we take this generic data analytics platform and can we apply to very platform, like for example, Salesforce, from like generative AI things. So we have 5 different options. So what we did was we reached out to a bunch of people, right? Like cold campaigns or handpicked news people who posted their projects, not as a sell, purely as, hey, we want to learn about the
Explore, yeah.
problem. Explore. So we did bunch of user interviews and then we tried to sell some of the solutions even before. That is okay. There is enough meat in the whole the generative AI framework. In the other areas, we hit our own wall where it's either maybe we realized we are the wrong people to build it, or we don't have enough passion to build it, or there's not enough demand. So there is a bit of like a 1 month of experimentation to just as a gut check, right? Are we getting excited about the new tech as engineers? Or is there real market need behind the scenes? Is something we try to tease out in a minimal possible.
So you said you sold it before building, and I think that's a very
Yeah,
common recommendation that you see across a lot of coaches
yeah,
and
yeah.
advisors. But in your specific case, how did you go about it?
It's matter of, can we ask for that help? We used to try to understand if there is enough need, what would be the target budget for them, so on and so forth, right? So I used to come up with a ballpark number. There, the pricing is not an issue because our core belief is if the other party has, say, you throw some number, right? Let's assume it's not $1 million more than what they would spend. So let's say your budget is $500 per. Even if you say $5,000, you'll be surprised how many people would actually ask you, hey, can you give it to me for $500, right? So if there is a real need, I don't think people would actually, oh, just because you said a higher number, I don't think people will leave the table, right? That is our core. And if there is no need, you might even offer them for free. Free is a different beast.
Yep.
So even if you offer them for $1, I think people will not use it. So in that sense, though we might think about these things, what are the details? What is the support? I think that is the definition of power user, right? There will be enough enthusiastic people out there who will be, if that need is strong. For example, for the data analytics thing, I got like at least 3 customers who signed a NDA. One customer who even hooked up their Salesforce pipeline. All right. And I did like some custom thing to give a dashboard for them. Right. So somebody actually hooked up their multi-million-dollar sales pipeline
Salesforce.
directly plugged into the system, Salesforce, right? Like big risk.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
big risk.
So
Was it production?
it was,
Oh, wow.
yeah, it
That's
was.
some trust.
Yeah. 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 Trust too. Yeah. That's really, I think within a week they realized, oh, okay, there's a big risk. We want to go through security review and all.
It is definitely a big pivot. The
It is.
early
Yeah.
Web3 paths that
Yeah.
you were attacking versus what you're trying to do now.
That's
How
right.
did I'm assuming you had already, I think from our last conversation, if I remember, you had already raised some money for the Web3.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so how did the investors
Yeah.
react and how did you navigate that as a
Yeah.
pivot?
So the thing that really worked for us is we didn't navigate, right? On day one, we made that decision. We told that to our investors, like, hey, we are making a pivot, FYI, right? And they were like extremely supportive. In fact, said a lot of founders feel obligated that they made a promise about the product and actually don't make these changes soon enough or hesitate to share it. And they actually congratulated that. We are so glad you are very quickly pivoting and not worried about staying true to the core. Ultimately, in my opinion, most of these investors and good investors, or even decent investors, they're investing in you as founders, right? More than their belief is that somehow you will grind your life and figure out things, and they will see some skills in you or have the trust in you. But it was not an issue at all. And I did feel a little bit of hesitation, like how would they feel? It was a passing thought, but we haven't delayed breaking that for us.
Interesting. The right
Yeah.
mindset
Yeah.
in the board.
So our investors are Leo Capital at the round. The other investors are up 2398. We, Alex and Jan Lehman and their private investor. They're extremely founder supportive, right? They're literally are like, we are your cheerleaders. Tell us what you need from us, right? They never give unnecessary advice. They were all themselves. So they know the grind, right? They're like, yeah, we know what it will feel like on the other side. It's very easy to speak about these things from other side of the table. So they're very intellectually honest and so.
Nice. It's good to have an investment board that also have been founders.
That's right.
They
Yeah,
definitely
that is a
understood.
great signal to. Yeah.
And so, how was the original fundraise? What was that journey like?
One investor, I know him for quite a while, and I had confidence that he would potentially invest in our team again. Having said that, I did not have very many connections beyond that. I knew a few investors. The way I thought about that was like for the first angel investor, I told him, hey, we are trying out X. Would you be interested? I kept him warm. And I know he doesn't lead the round. And he made another intro, and even they don't lead. So then what we did was we did a cold email literally. So there was this founder hub, founders, I forgot. But we sent a few, interestingly, almost. The open rate used to be around 85%. It sent emails to around maybe around 80 investors. Around 30 meetings happened. Four-ish were interested. One person said I would lead. And then I immediately called the investors I knew. They, like, once the lead investor committed, the follow-ons, like another immediately committed. And that was it. But find the first lead took us 3 weeks. So total fundraising 4 weeks. Looking back, that was like pretty fast, it felt like, because when we started, we had a basic product. We have some potential customers. We did not have revenue. Fundraising is the founding team's profiles in
Makes
like
sense.
the skill of the founding team.
Yeah,
Yeah, but until that first lead came, it was we were not sure, right? People were definitely interested, but finding the right lead is definitely pretty.
interesting. 85% open rate,
So,
beating Nigeria. What was your
yeah,
subject
yeah,
matter?
yeah. So the small tweak we did was a lot of the first set of emails we sent, we kept the company name hyphen then what. I quickly realized it gets clipped, right? And when somebody reads company name in 3 words, who cares? Who cares about the company? The first to the first 4 words and last is the company name. Then people, data analytics, something like that, right? So once somebody sees that, that is appealing, attractive.
It's a great pivot. The timing is obviously when you did that, probably many people were pondering or thinking about this
Yeah,
direction. And if you look at the
yeah.
last 12 to 18 months,
Hmm.
a lot of people did make that shift or pop up because they also tried playing with
That's right.
either fine tuning or hitting the APIs. And so
That's right.
we spoke earlier about moat and defensibility, which I'm sure
That's
you
right.
get a
That's
lot.
right.
Like,
Yeah.
how are you different from what's out there?
There are a few things there, right? Like one, the moat itself is an evolving concept in my mind. Like depending on where the stage of the company you are, your product, the specific problems you're solving, all of that is evolving and expanding. It's not like it's something that's written in the wall. This is your only unique advantage you would have over time. So in a way, your strategy should be evolving and your thinking should be evolving fast. That's number one. I see like at least in this space, we have few different players, right? One is the platform play, like players doing whatever we are trying to do. And then there is specific vertical play, like you'll build a very enhanced customized solution in legal tech, in marketing tech, in sales tech, so on. And so let's take the obvious off of the table, right? Like a lot of people in the short, like, and I also think about this in the short term, midterm, long term. Right? When I say short term, let's say next 1 to 2 years, midterm, let's say next like long term, like beyond. If we take incumbents, the obvious thing, a lot of people will be like, hey, what will prevent Google from building whatever platform? The way I think about it is this is a classic engineer's fallacy. From building point of view, anybody can build anything. Especially in Silicon Valley, they're the smartest engineers out there. In fact, we should be fooling ourselves if we're building something that others can. From that point of view, the question is not whether somebody can, the question is, would somebody build it? Like, why would Google build? The way I say it, if we take Google, for example, their mindset is they lost a big opportunity because they're going to protect their search business, whatever. And OpenAI raced ahead of them, landing like $1 million like customers trying to sell apps, right? Would Google prioritize it because we are building a platform and it's easy to build? Would they build a platform to offer application layer framework, or would their strategy, corporate strategy or product strategy, be like that? Is how I think about it. Even if they build the same platform, are they building it for? Would they be building it for large enterprises who have completely different set of needs, or would they be building it B2C or mid-market enterprise customers because they can make few bucks, right? Like as a startup, all of us, of course, want to go up market, but at the same time, we should be cognizant of resources and the kind of people we'll be targeting. I think the people they're solving it, the problem they're solving, and the scale at which they're solving, it's completely different from who we will be targeting, right? Yeah, though we are in the similar space, I don't see them as competition at all, direct competition. As all these models get better, we are in a unique place where customers don't want potentially to get locked in into either OpenAI ecosystem or Google ecosystem. And that's where we see a window of opportunity even with incumbents, right? That's one. The verticalized solutions, yeah, that is a debate like we even think about how whether we should go with the verticalized solution or stay the platform. The way I see it is, at least in this whole generative AI space, the difference between how they're solving a legal tech problem versus a marketing tech problem, they're still using the ChatGPT API behind the scenes. So though like it might look lucrative in terms of short-term sales because you can target like a specific persona and sell them on that specific thing, I don't see the value add-on staying for a long time because behind the scenes you have one specific, like the same like GPT model or Google Bard you are using. And all you are doing is, in terms of mode, adding bunch of connectors. And again, I'm not trivializing the criticality of a better UX and all that. But I don't see much difference from how a chatbot in legal space is different from, let's say, a chatbot in medical space, right? That is my read. And in fact, when I even go to conferences, every time I do see the verticalized solutions, I'm like, all these are buildable on prompt, like without much. Then it brings the conversation back to the horizontal players, the platform players. Even there, I see a lot of subsegments, at least like in the short term, which is many of these people, I see them targeting the developer person. The unique insight we have with all our early customers is that in enterprises, there is a massive opportunity, all the non-engineering folks who are looking to boost their. These are your marketing people, these are your HR people, or like legal people, finance people, so on. They oftentimes, engineering, there is no way they can spend any time for them. At the same time, all these people are using ChatGPT and they're feeling their hands are tied down. So we see this, we have this unique understanding of what they actually need, how to empower them, and how to solve. So at least in the short term, that insight is what will propel us, and that's how Promptly evolved, right? For example, we were the first to do the app framework. We are the first now, like we are launching something called super agents. We are always like that 1 to 2 steps ahead. Somebody can copy us, but they can't copy where we would go. And where we would go is dictated by what we are learning from the existing customers, what they're asking.
And then, of course, the market is big enough as well, right?
That's one, yeah. And the market is big enough, yeah. We have seen that in edtech as well, right? In early days, there was edX, Coursera, Udacity. But when the market, when a entirely new technology is coming, there is enough opportunity for anyone. Technically, we are not yet competing with each. I think the competing moment will come when consolidation is happening much further down. This is still in the early stage where everybody is trying to figure out like what works best for. So this is not a competing phase, right? Where every startup provides their own unique value unlock to these companies. I think like maybe 2-3 years down the line, when we actually go to a more mature stage technology, that is when some of these things become critical. And I think it is still way too early to say what is that thing that comes down the line like 2 to 3 years. That is this unique advantage. That is where the agility and openness to the market is. Of course, this might feel like paradoxical. Like looking back, everybody will claim this is our competitive advantage. But when they're building, that is something they develop through insight by understanding their customers and needs deep. We're already seeing some themes there. For example, like on-prem installation of this stack is something that is popping up again and again. And there are not many players who offer an on-prem no-code platform. When you say on-prem, you're generally targeting developers. But nobody talks about, I'll bring something on-prem where your non-developers will use it. So there is already some differentiation and commonality trend we are seeing that other players are not doing. But as we like dig deeper there and as we understand more, I think we will come up with more differentiating factors. Again, that is the hypothesis and bet we are facing. And I need to be honest about it.
Yeah, no, I think startup is a numbers game, right? You observe where things are going and you trade and you act on how the market is reacting. So
Yeah, exactly.
a little more about your early journey to becoming a CTO. How did that happen and what lessons were there?
Mm-hmm. A few factors there. One, in terms of like how I got into startups, I think it's Civil who said that really well. Where in some of his interviews, I think he literally, I felt like he spoke my mind. There are certain type of people who will do extremely well when the outcome is not guaranteed, when everything is uncertain, and only they will be responsible for their failure. I cannot do things because somebody is expecting off of me or I need to deliver unless I'm internally driven for me. It's a really big mental block. So for me, when I came to learn about the startups, that's what really clicked for me. Where, okay, I'll control my fate here, right? Or this is extremely hard. I know like most people fail. Probably like I will also fail.
Hmm.
There's something about it that is liberating for me,
Hmm.
like knowing that, you know what, 90% you might fail and it is a free playground for you to figure. That feels very liberating for me, right? Rather than feel shacked. As a computer science grad, I did become a CTO in my first
Hmm.
startups where I was doing a lot of technology related things. Anyway, I was not even thinking about business. I was like contributing ideas here and there,
Hmm.
but I will just put my heads down. Okay, what needs to be done, we'll get it done,
Hmm.
right? If something's possible, we'll do it, right? A pure enabler mindset. But then thing that I kept on thinking was like, I really need to own my failure. Even in some of those failures, there are a lot of learnings, but also there is this doubt in my mind. Hey, if I had tried it, if I had tried it in like certain way, would I have done things differently? There was that bug. Not that I'm not saying I would have succeeded or I'm better or anything. It's just that personal attribution of failure where I really want to eliminate all other things. So that is when, like, when Coursera exit happened, like, I wanted to pursue that for my own, like, intellectual curiosity. That's what brought me into CU. Having said that, it's not purely just that. I always thought I was like pretty good with people. I always thought I would be able to sell things to people,
Hmm.
right? Like my strength was mostly people management more than I used to find like really good people who can lead the tech.
Hmm.
So that's where I thought CU is something I can give it a shot, like as a non-technical person.
Yeah. You went from an IC to a CTO and then back to an IC again. How was that journey? Because you went from a
Yeah,
CTO again to a senior software engineer at
yeah,
Coursera.
yeah.
How hard was that decision and
That's right.
how did you
Yeah,
go about it?
yeah, yeah. So yeah, the journey was like, yeah, I was CTO, and then we are folding. I became an engineer at Aardvark. Coursera I joined as a manager, but still there is a switch. There are two switches there. One is being this co-founder to becoming engineer, and another is being a co-founder to becoming an EM in a larger company.
Yep.
It was mentally pretty hard in a way,
Hmm.
as in the level of agency you have as a co-founder is extremely different. Like working like 3 to 10 people or 3 to 15 people, as you decide everything. You do everything from janitorial work to designing system is
Yep.
a completely different ball game compared to managing a team or even writing code, like learning to code, right? Like because you'll get rusty when you
Yep.
are moving away from things.
Yep.
It was a hard switch, honestly. Like the first time I was doing that, it was little hard, uh, but at the same time, life drives you forward, right?
Yep.
Meaning you need to put food on the table. I was
Yep. Food is a
in
good
younger
driver.
days, I was like pretty rash and I did not really save up money, whatever, right? Despite
Hmm.
having that mental barrier, I was able to make that. But when I was switching to Coursera, it was little bit easier because of the earlier experience when I switched to Aardvark as an engineer. But the beautiful thing about that is that the day one or the week one or the month one, I became an IC or an EM. I felt extremely happy. I was like, thank you. Somebody is taking care of all this shit, right? You're telling me what to do. I'll get that done. I'll do that really. It felt really good.
Yep.
But again, here, kudos to the people around me, right? The Aardvark, the team I worked with, Max Ventila, Nicholas Shim, like all those people, David Horowitz. And like I used to literally jaw dropped and look at, oh, who are these amazing people, amazing entrepreneurs. So it was very awe inspiring. Similarly at Coursera, oh wow, like there's a lot to learn. So
Hmm.
there is this lonely window when you are making the switches because you're coming out of a failure, you're sore. you haven't made money, like all those thoughts come back to you. So once you make a leap of faith, on the other side of that change, there are amazing people and amazing teams waiting for you out there. So you'll be perfectly all right. In fact, I told the same thing to one of my friends who is shutting down his
Hmm.
company, and he's trying to become a consultant, whatever, because he doesn't want to become this IC whatever. But now
Yeah.
he's at another like Series B startup, like senior staff. He's having fantastic time because exactly the amazing people he's. So I think it's a great thing to remind ourselves at the end of the day in this entire journey, the founder, CEO, CTO doesn't matter. It's the people you're working with, right? Even now, my co-founders, that is what brings me to office. That's what makes me excited. Yeah, generative AI and all are cool. But at the
Yeah.
end of the day, I enjoy being with them. That is the common denominator I see. As long as those people are
Yeah.
awesome and you are awesome too, I think things will be fine, right?
The car is great, but who's riding with you, right? If you're doing a cross
Yeah,
country,
exactly.
it can be the fanciest
Yeah,
car,
yeah,
but if you're alone or
yeah,
you are stuck with people who are not great, then
yeah.
you'll not have a great trip.
That's right. Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
You've had this long engineering spell, and now you've at promptly you're primarily sales, right? You're not really doing any of the engineering anymore.
That's
You're close to the product, but you're more
that's right.
sales.
Yeah,
Now, even though I get the
that's right.
whole
That's
you did early on festivals and you were a little outgoing, but it still requires a lot of
yeah.
shift because selling to enterprise requires a lot of reps. How was the transition
That's
from
that's
engineering to
right.
sales?
Yeah, it was quite an interesting journey.
Hmm.
There was a lot I was learning on the fly, right? And I was talking to people. I was getting a lot of new learnings from them. Even for example, simple thing that you need to run email campaigns. I'm still like I would say in the elementary school of sales journey, probably.
Hmm.
But at the same time, focusing on what they really want and letting them actually put that on table. One thing I learned pretty early is you should not speak too much in these sales calls. You should let the other party speak. I learned like the ideal
Once the
time
customer
for
has
you
said
to talk
yes.
is maybe 20 to 30%.
Yeah.
You disappear. Yeah, yeah. So I think in that sense, it's been quite a journey for me, right? And it is not easy, right? Because as you would know, if you have done sales, is a lonely journey with a constant failure, with some victory sprinkled here and there, maybe.
Yeah.
Right? So it's a journey of constant rejection, right? Nobody gives a shit about you,
Yeah.
right?
High
Everybody has
rejection,
their
high
lives.
commission. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, for salespeople
yeah,
who are not
yeah.
founders,
Commission.
for salespeople who are founders,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, there
yeah,
is no
yeah,
commission.
yeah,
There is
yeah.
only high
Yeah,
rejection.
founding. Yeah, that's right. And also, founding sales is a little different than sales, right? As a founder, even though a deal doesn't happen or somebody doesn't like the product, you try to reflect on it like why not, are we selling the right thing? So there are different things at play, right? Maybe you're a bad salesman, maybe you're selling the wrong thing, or maybe your product is wrong. There are so many factors at play.
Yep.
So ability to put your finger on, oftentimes in early days you'll blame yourself, like
Yep.
you know what, next time I'll do better, right? And then after maybe 10 times or 15 times you realize, you know what, maybe the problem is not with you, maybe the problem is with the product, right? So that is where like a seasoned salesperson versus like a beginner or somebody who is
Yeah.
learning, where like that learning cycle or ability to declare failure faster, you'll feel a lot more comfort. So in that sense, like the sales calls are definitely good learning opportunity. At the same time, sometimes you talk to wrong people and you don't want to change the product because they said so.
How often did you get to spend time with customers in your earlier engineering roles when you were not a CTO? And how
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
important do you think it is for engineers to also get a taste of spending some time with the customers?
yeah. For me, in my previous cases, in one of the companies, we used to be part of the user
Hmm.
interviews. It was like mandatory, I would say.
Hmm.
In the first startup, I know the customers well. In the second one, not so much. There was enough engineering work. In my opinion, if you're not really dealing or learning about customer even as an engineer, why even work for a startup?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I would say, in fact, we'll see how the future goes. Until like certain number of people, we might not even want to hire product managers because we want to prioritize. We want to hire only the kind of people who can wear these hats, and for them to be successful, instead of depending on somebody to translate that knowledge, they should be able to have their own opinions because of the learnings from the customers. That's all.
Yeah.
So at least all three of us, like there is no negotiation on that. We fundamentally believe it's okay. You might do 30-40% less coding work or engineering. That is perfectly all right. I don't think products fail because somebody wrote code little.
Yeah.
It is because they built something that is irrelevant.
Yeah.
We don't want.
Yeah, we just keep optimizing for engineering time, keep adding features that nobody wants to use. And yeah, that
That.
can.
Yeah, that is a false metric, right? Like productivity is a big myth in my opinion.
Yep.
It's a good sales thing to say, but it is much deeper than one metric, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's there's this law, right? When metric becomes the goal, it loses its purpose. Productivity is one such thing. And you optimize too much for productivity, why we are being productive gets lost and it's useless.
Yes. Yep. But if we are SaaS, then we are improving productivity for our customers.
Mm-hmm.
So in that sense, productivity is important, very important.
Yeah,
Yes, for
yeah.
engineers.
So yeah, even there, I think if you promise productivity as an outcome,
Yeah.
you might be setting yourself up for failure because the way to measure how it is instrumented and all is tricky.
Yep.
Probably we should establish a metric, something that is before productivity, that will imply that they will have productivity.
Mm.
If not, we'll get into the subjective game, is my 2 cents, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because when you
yeah,
keep fixating on
exactly. So
productivity, you're basically saying headcount, right? I'm gonna.
yeah,
And
exactly. Yeah, yeah. Again, on a sales call, obviously you should be saying some of this, like you should talk about the bigger picture
yeah.
things, but that is not a promise you can make. Even today, I went to NVIDIA conference in some CIO session. They're saying like in 3 months, we saved 50 people and saved like $100 million because they measured number of code commits that reduced and whatever, blah, blah, blah. Immediate question was, dude, like, you are making some snake oil math. There's no way this will translate. That's the immediate emotion even I got, right? Despite being in
Yeah.
generative. Had he left it at these are the number of tickets reduced and number of code commits increased, whatever, then I would have interpreted them in my own way rather than
Yep.
planting that I saved 100 million in 3 months. Then I'm like, dude, you're upselling way too
Yeah.
much here. Is the immediate emotion. The engineering brain kicks in for me.
Yep.
So,
Maybe somebody
yeah,
stopped committing on the readmes.
we never know exactly.
These presentations, the graph always goes up, right? So they have to
Yeah.
play to that narrative.
The
We were talking about learnings from these big companies, and you spoke about, rather than the learnings, there are a lot of unlearnings that you had to go through.
yeah, yeah,
What were the top two or three big unlearnings that people from big companies when
yeah,
switching out to startups need to watch out for?
yeah. So one like of there are learnings, but my point is you can't apply some of those learnings to a completely different problem space.
Hmm.
Right? Let's say you're at Google, you're working on you have a massive distribution channel. Even for a product like Google Plus, that is like questionable.
Yep.
You will have 100 million views because you will send a notification through Gmail, whatever that
Yeah,
is,
yeah,
right?
absolutely.
You have a massive distribution channel. A product manager claiming I took a product from zero to $100 million. A lot of people claim
Yeah.
that at like companies like Google versus actually generating 0 to 100 as a startup where you don't have a distribution channel is a completely different ballgame and beast.
Yep.
That is where I don't see every product manager being a capable founder or the other way as well. They're completely different skill sets. I'm not undermining, I'm not saying one is better or the other,
Yeah.
right? Reusing existing distribution channels versus how do you actually figure out and create a new distribution channel on a new problem that wasn't solved
Hmm.
or completely different problems, right? And that is where the unlearning should come from. That is, you don't have a distribution channel to begin with, right? Especially at the early stage start.
Yep.
All you are figuring out is you need to somehow think about it, right? If we talk to 100 enterprises, I'm sure like we will learn something.
Yep.
But how are you going to get these 100 enterprise meetings? With what are you going to reach out to these people? Where are you going to find these 100 enterprises? When I was at Coursera, all it takes is send an email to a bunch of universities, and I'm sure at least 10 or 15 will come forward and 5 will hand raise that we'll try. That is existing distribution channel.
Yeah.
Now promptly, like, where do you get to this people? That is where like 80% of work is, right? Which is setting up this damn meeting, right? You go like grind in conferences, you go cold campaigns, pinging random Redditors, right?
Yeah.
Even in your co-working space, you try to make a chat with the hope that you will set up a meeting and learn something, right? There's a lot of grind there. So the first unlearning is that, right? Which is you don't have any distribution channel more than your product spec, your vision, your all these things. Where are these people where you can talk to? Where are this group of people hanging out? And understanding that is a big challenge. Even today, that is the day in and day out challenge for us. And there is a lot of trying out and failing there. The other thing is I realized like lot of things we think are practical are actually over-optimized things. Even like at Promptly, like in early days, we used to talk about like certain things, right? What will happen next, blah, blah, blah. And quickly, like we learned that these are all hypothetical conversations. Hypothetical conversations mean shit. They're freaking useless.
Yep.
Because oftentimes you don't even get to that half step. For example, talking about design trade-offs, like faster to implement, like how can we make the extensibility? This is all bullshit. Like this is useless at this stage because your product might not exist tomorrow, right? And even on building, a lot of people might not build. Even from like mind space point of view, it is useless, is our core belief, right? And at this point, anytime one of us is going into a theoretical, one of the other co-founders will say, hey, this is not going anywhere, let's stop.
Yeah.
This is useless. This is theoretical, right? Like we developed that broken record and we'll immediately drop it there. No hard feelings. Yeah. All of us, oh yeah, this is useless, boss, right? The other thing is all of us know, even in the startup, that we need to execute better, fail fast and all. But when you are on the ground trying to do things, you don't know that you're actually failing.
Yeah.
Right? So if somebody tells you that you're failing, you'll immediately give up. No doubt. Every founder will do that. But because you're trying to make something work, how do you even know whether you are failing or not? Like I was saying, right? You sometimes think, oh, maybe you're doing a poor job of selling. Let me sell better. Or you know what? Maybe I only talk to 3 people. Let me talk to 10 people.
Yep.
Right? I think, or let's say we need to hire somebody. Okay, a simple example, right? Like you'll post something on LinkedIn, you'll get like 300 resumes or whatever. Like how do you actually hire? Actually seeing it through completion. Some of these seemingly trivial things that are so obvious while talking.
Yeah.
Right. So conduct a webinar. Okay. To conduct a webinar, you have to make a graphic. You have to set up something. You have to write the whatever. Like even all those little things, like actually getting shit done, though in our head is so trivial. When you are until and unless you're actually doing that, you don't realize how much it takes. So even seemingly trivial tasks need an extreme commitment to see these things through the finish line. Even simple things like running ads. You'll try to set up a campaign. Oh, you want to do keywords. Then you might get distracted into SEMrush. Then you'll be like, oh, we need assets.
Yep.
So that simple idea, let's quickly spend $10 on Google.
Yep.
In reality, will be like 2 weeks or nothing will happen.
Right? Because there's
So
so many
that is the
steps
execution,
to
right? Like
failure.
so, yeah. Exactly. So oftentimes that the simple facts, like as if we all behave like sun rises in the east type facts, in reality on the ground are very different. Right? So that is where, as a co-founding team, we should develop a muscle, right? For example, we are very cautious with our spend. We quickly realized anytime money is involved, we are probably cheaping out or not making that. So now anytime we talk about an idea, we say, let's spend 5K on it. Let's throw 10K at it. It's okay. We say it's okay to lose that 10K. It's fine. Otherwise, let's say there's a conference. Somebody throws an idea, let's go to conference.
Yep.
Okay, conference is 5K. Then we'll start thinking about it. Oh, how many leads would we get? What is our way? Whatever. And then the action won't happen. So it is really important for somebody to push the damn thing through, right? And for that, there should be some freedom of operation. So this is the kind of muscle you will be developing with your co-founding team.
Yeah.
And of course, like there is still a lot we can improve. There is a big difference in the reality, right? In a big company, you have 10 different people doing all these little things. Oh, somebody will throw an idea, let's run an email campaign. Somebody will write the copy. Somebody will set up the campaign. Somebody will write the code. right? Everything will line up, but you don't have that here.
Yep.
So that switch of taking it upon you to see it through finish line is a different beast in a startup than a big company. So unless you want to own the idea, don't even, because if you throw too many ideas and nothing is happening, then you also develop this feeling that we are not doing anything to. So ideas are cheap in that sense.
Absolutely. There is a flip side. In big companies, yes, you have obviously so many people who can take those individual items, but at the same time, you introduce
Mhm.
handoffs. Here, you don't have these many
Yes.
handoffs, you have fewer people, but then
Yeah.
there are too many ideas thrown on the table,
Yeah.
which means you're distracted. So I
Too
think
many ideas thrown on
finding
the
that
table.
balance of
Yeah. Yeah.
working on a
Yeah.
few problems that can move you forward.
Yeah. Once you own an idea to execute, naturally you'll, because you're focused on executing that,
Yeah.
you will not randomly throw new ideas as well. I think they all go hand in hand.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we should not kill the ideation. So
Absolutely. Some of these
yeah, yeah,
calls, um, ideation calls or calls where the team goes on a tangent in startups, could produce the best
yeah,
outcome
yeah,
for the
yeah.
startup. So
That's
yeah,
right. Yeah, yeah,
there's a
yeah.
fine
I mean,
balance.
our promptly platform is one such idea, like in a ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Coming back to this distribution, I saw a video on LinkedIn. It's an old video of Naval Ravikant poo-pooing the whole stop going to networking events or conferences or whatever. But hey, if you don't have the
yeah, yeah,
distribution channel, there is literally no other option. So that advice
yeah,
is pretty contextual. You can't apply that advice as a startup and say, you know what, we're just going to do great work,
yeah.
sit at office, and
That's
people
right.
will just latch
Yeah.
on to the idea.
If you sit at office, yeah, people will not even know that you died. You know what I'm saying? So putting yourself out there is really
Yeah.
important. Conferences are a big love-hate relationship for me. We have one really big partnership with a Brazilian education company that happened through a conference, actually. I randomly made up a chat, and
Hmm.
that dude happened to be Startse's co-founder. Startse trains like 200-300 executives every month. We have a partnership. We get leads through them.
Hmm.
A lot of people come to our platform, right?
Yep.
At the same time, is that something I planned for? No, right?
Yep.
There are definitely some things you can do. Trying to set up meetings prior, ability to not get sucked into some random conversation. Like within few minutes, you should be like, I'm out of there.
Yep.
Don't waste your time. Also, I realized like I apply too much pressure on myself.
Hmm.
I started telling myself it's okay to have go have a little fun there. If you are entirely business, what is my ROI? What is my ROI? How many leads? That will kill you. That will kill you. So you should have fun, be aware, right, and do some like prep work. And yeah, as you consistently do that, probably some things will work. And
Yeah. Putting
yeah,
yourself
yeah.
out
Go
there is
ahead. Yeah,
not
yeah,
just conferences, right? Putting yourself out there is
yeah,
taking a
yeah.
meeting or
That's right.
you
That's right. That's right.
helping others
Agree.
out
Agree.
or even this podcast, for
Yeah,
example,
yeah.
just putting yourself out
Exactly.
there. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a mindset, right? Yeah,
It
it's a mindset.
it is a mindset.
So
It is definitely a mindset. In the last few months, I've been speaking to a lot of founders, and one of the things that a few of them have hit now on how to cultivate this distribution channel that you don't have. How do you identify channels to
mhm.
sell through? A lot of founders actually think about distribution too late in the game,
Yeah, yeah,
right? When's the
yeah,
right time you
yeah,
feel to start thinking about, okay, I need to start figuring out what my distribution channels are, or how do I build them?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Also, the other phenomena is some people think too early too.
Yep, absolutely.
Right? There is, yeah, there is death on both
Death on
sides
both sides.
in
Absolutely.
that
Yeah.
sense. Yeah. The way I think about it is your first goal is to get your first
Yeah.
customer. Next is to get like next three or four. If you think about it in those terms,
Yeah.
and when you are actually trying to brainstorm, whether you're thinking about how do I bring three customers or how am I bringing 10 customers,
Yeah.
naturally it will lead you to think about some of these things, right? For example, just by pinging people within your network, if you can bring 10 connections, that's fantastic. Go do that.
Yeah.
All right. And you might quickly realize, you know what, you don't really have a network. You have three customers.
Yeah.
You need to take it to seven. Then, yeah, there is some volume play you are trying to have. So all of that is driven by the goals you would form for yourself.
Mm.
right? The reason I said too early is, let's say you haven't even sold to 2 or 3 enterprises and you are thinking about what is the channel I need to figure out to get to 10 to 20. You haven't even understood how to sell to this handful and what their problems are and what is sticking. So there you're effectively building a company rather than a business, right? You will hire people, account executives, whatever, right? I think that is where this whole founder-led sales and all notions came in, right? Where they recommend general wisdom is try to sell 200-300K as a founder, and then you will understand where the bottlenecks are and you will hire or spread to actually fix those bottlenecks. The same for us, right? Like when we are launching promptly, the goal is to get that one customer. We are not even thinking about where are the 100 customers out there, right? And so on and so forth. We are thinking then like multiples. Oh, we got like few. How do we get to 10? Okay, we got 10. How do we get to 20? That's when the volume, then it will become obvious, right? For you to get to 10, oh, the number of meetings you need to take. For that, oh, you actually need a channel. Even there, like you don't think you do a lot of experiments, right? Like you put some conference, you do partnerships, you do like ads, depending upon the kind of, and you'll be learning from there.
Getting to a state where you have a lot of repeatability and then doubling down.
Don't go too ahead of the game,
Yeah.
or don't be the guy who is like just trying to build things and hoping like a great product will take care of itself, right? So if you are truly focused on pushing your next immediate goal, naturally you will progress into this whole channel convo and all.
What's the one book you would recommend each founder to pick?
Black Swan by Nassim Taleb.
Good one.
That's one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Hacker News, I spend a lot of time.
Oh, you spend a lot of time on Hacker News.
Unfortunately, I don't contribute as much.
Hmm.
I read through every comment and I actually go through an internal debate.
Hmm.
Why that comment? Do I align with that? Do I disagree with that? Why do I align? Why do I disagree? I conduct my own internal arguments with those comments.
Interesting. And just so that everyone's aware, you're talking about the YC Hacker News, right?
YC Hacker.
Yeah.
News.y Combinator.
Y Combinator. Yeah. It's a very interesting forum, I think. Very valuable.
Especially for startup.
Yeah, if you're especially building. Yeah. And so what's next? What's the next 12 months looking like for you as a founder uh, and the company?
Like I was saying, like there are a few things that are sticking for us. One, like the end-to-end enterprise solution with on-prem. I'm seeing like a big spike there. That's one. Partnerships is really working out well for us. We stuck like almost around 10 partnerships in last like 1 to 2 months. Several, primarily like we offer a white label type solution and they deploy the solutions to their end customers and they pay us licensing. That is like going really well. We are excited about. So we just want to double down on a couple of those motions. We also have a new product that we are envisioning and planning to launch. So those three things are the top three things I have. Top.
Interesting.
We want to access.
Interesting. I wish you guys all the best. It's an exciting time.
Thank
And
Yeah.
again, thank you.
Yeah.
It was a fun conversation. But thanks again for taking the
No,
time.
I truly enjoyed the chat, Vishesh, and good luck with the podcast. This is awesome.
If you found this valuable, you can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever your favorite podcast app is. See you in the next episode.